What's up guys, thanks for joining the channel. In this video I'm going to tell you all the pros and cons for the new budget 5G phone, the Radiant Max 5G on AT&T prepaid, and it's also available on Cricket, called the Dream 5G. So let's go ahead and get started. So this one is definitely not a flagship device, but it offers so much for 90 bucks. Let's go ahead and talk about the pros of this phone and what it has to offer. First thing is the price, $90 for a 5G phone. No contracts, anything like that. You do have to get service for it though. I believe it's around $50 to $60 plan. It comes up to like around $160 here where I live. So you are getting service with it, but the actual phone itself is only 90 bucks. It's not $1,000 like a flagship. Next pro feature is a big 6.8-inch screen. So this is a huge display, a lot of content. You can watch video, you can, go on social media, browse the web. There's a lot to look at. It's gonna be pretty big, but it's gonna be definitely very enjoyable for, consumption of media and video and all that good stuff. Next thing that it is a pro is the storage. Now it has 64 gigs, which for 99% of people out there will be perfectly fine. And it's not 128 gigs like a Pixel 5a or 256 gigs like a higher end Samsung. But this is definitely more than enough for most people, especially since it has that expandable storage. So you can stick in a SD card and expand it very easily and cheaply. This isn't a 32 gig model phone, which barely is good enough for people. It's probably not even good enough for most people. So 64 gigs, I could see a lot of people going perfectly fine with that amount of space. Next big feature, big pro of this phone is the 4,750 milliamp battery. So that's close to 5,000. So it'll safely get you 2 days of use, depending on your typical daily usage. I think most people will be perfectly happy with that battery life. Especially with this software that it runs. And that's the next big big feature. It runs a stock version of Android. So it'll feel like a Motorola phone, a Pixel phone, OnePlus phone. It's a clean bill of Android, so that will basically help out the battery life as well. There's nothing too messy like or extra stuff going on in the background or the heavy skin like on LG phones or Samsung phones. So very lean and mean. Next big pro is that it runs a fairly new version of Android 11. Although in a short amount of time it will be updated to Android 12, or the newest version of Android 12 will be released, and Android 11 will be a little bit older. But nonetheless, as of right now, it has the newest version of Android. I doubt it's going to get an update, but that's okay. For this price point, you can't ask too much. If you want the newest, fast version of Android, that's where you get a Pixel. Next big pro is that this phone has 4 cameras, and the one to look out for is the ultra wide camera. So these aren't going to be the best cameras out there, and that's okay. For most situations, if you got a good amount of light, that's going to make this camera very usable. And you just having 4 cameras, you have options right there for a portrait shot, a macro shot, and most importantly for me is probably the ultra wide shot that'll make a big difference. This price point, that's kind of like a pro feature right there. Next big feature, a big pro of this phone is that it has NFC. Very surprisingly, this low-end priced phone has NFC, so that's mostly used for payments and Google Pay and all that stuff. So that's a nice feature to have. Another thing that surprised me that's a pro feature on this device is fast charging. Typical phones at this price point don't have any type of special charging or faster charging, so it's nice to see this phone is a non-brand phone, generic type phone, has fast charging. So a lot of people, if you haven't had the experience of using fast charging, I definitely have gotten used to it. I can't go back to regular charging like at 5 watts or 10 watts or anything like that. This is definitely going to help out with the big battery. So you pair a big battery with fast charging, that's awesome. You're gonna get great battery life. And next, surprisingly, a big pro feature is wireless charging. Yes, you heard me right. For $90 on this phone, you get wireless charging. Wireless charging is not my cup of tea, really. I prefer fast wired charging because it's faster, but there's a lot of people that don't like wires, and that's a feature that's reserved for, you know, higher end phones. So this is like the most surprising feature for me, is that it has fast charging and wireless charging. So this phone is packing a lot for 90 bucks. No, so all that stuff you're getting, those are all the pros. Let's talk about a little bit of the cons. So availability. This phone is only available on AT&T prepaid and on Cricket. If you want to get this phone unlocked, you're gonna have to get service on those carriers, prepaid carriers. Although there's no contract, there's no taxes typically on the Cricket side, for example. You're only gonna be able to get them there. You can't get them at your regular carrier for postpaid, like a T-Mobile or Verizon or anything like that. So if you have Verizon or T-Mobile, it probably won't work on there. Another con of this phone is that this phone is, you know, like I said before, it's not a high-end flagship phone, so there's going to be no high-end gaming or editing for your content. It's not for content creation, really. This phone is not. It's going to be bogged down, you know, with heavier games, very graphic intensive games, and that's due to the chipset and the 4 gigs of RAM. Now, for most apps, 99% of people use. This won't be an issue, but you are going to definitely run into these problems if you do any type of high, crazy gaming or editing. That'll slow it down. And the RAM is 4 gigs, which, you know, if you are a power user, this might not be for you. You might have a lot of apps closed in the background, but most people casually using the phone, they won't notice the difference. Will be a perfect amount of RAM, but you know, watch out if you are a power user. That's probably the only cons about this. Oh, and also, I talked about how good the camera, you know, the good camera setup is, having 4 cameras, but it's also a con because I know for a fact that this one is probably not going to be a good phone overall. For a quick shot with decent light, yeah, the phone will take decent, you know, images and videos, but once it gets low light, it's going to be terrible, like every other Android phone. You know, unless it's a Pixel or a Samsung, the video quality is going to be very terrible, especially in low light. And you know, that's just how it is. But I think most people